Welcome to the Toy Rewind Podcast with your hosts, the Brothers Newland. Now, let's talk toys.
And happy end of the year. I'm Michael.
I'm John.
And I'm Andrew. And this week on the Toy Rewind Podcast, I lost my notes. That's how this was going to go. Let me scroll up. Here we go. Welcome to the Toy Rewind Podcast, where we look back at lines from our childhood, toy lines from our childhood, and give you a history lesson about how those lines were created and possibly ended up in all of our homes. This week, it's time for us to look back on the year that was 2021, and we look at our favorite pastime of things that we always did on New Year's Eve as a family, and that's board games. Last year we talked about Parker Brothers, specifically Monopoly, which had a little bit of significance in John's life and his collection. This year we're looking at Milton Bradley. Here's some of the Milton Bradley games we're going to talk about: Battleship, The Game of Life, Connect 4, Hungry Hippos, Twister, Yahtzee, Axis and Allies, and Hero Quest. Hopefully you as a listener have listened or have played some of those games, because
Yahtzee!
I was waiting for one of you guys to do that. I've played a few of them myself. I know these guys have played a few of themselves. I don't know how many Battleship battles we've done between the three of us. Yahtzee games and
Battleship was a big one. Yeah,
all those. So we're going to talk about Milton Bradley, see how they became and then weren't anymore. And then, we're also going to recap our 2021 year. And so stick around, see what we can do. John, before we get into all that, do your thing.
All right. So check us out over on our website at toyrewindpodcast.com. Also look us up at crossthestreamsmedia.com. You can email us at toyrewindpodcast@gmail.com. Our Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch is all Toy Rewind Pod. Facebook and YouTube is Toy Rewind Podcast. We do still do some of our toy box showcases here and there, so keep up with that and watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch as we do those. As always, if you're listening to us and want to play along, we have our own little game with the podcast bingo. You can check that out at podcastbingo.com/toy rewind, and then listen in and watch for our collector showcases with our friends over at the Geek Together channel.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff there. Be sure you're following those socials, because we just got finished with something we need to update real quick too. As of yesterday, it was actually late last night, we have a winner for our most recent toy bracket. Oh, sorry, wrong button. Our most recent toy bracket. I was right. I was thinking I'm crazy, but I'm right.
No, you're right.
I'm trying to also find the image here so we can pull it up. It is two pretty good lines that went up against each other, which we knew it was going to be when we started this. We had the Classic NES and G.I. Joe, the 3-inch line for G.I. Joe. So any surprises from you guys on how this one ended up?
When I was watching it, it was really shocking that when I was actually able to look at it, it seemed really, really close, and like G.I. Joe might take it. But I guess
so. G.I. Joe did tie it up. It was a tied vote on Twitter.
Twitter, right. It was.
The Instagram is where Nintendo really hit it out of the park, which we kind of all expected Nintendo to win this. There were the few people that are like, well, Nintendo's not a toy. And I feel like that's how G.I. Joe got so many votes compared to Nintendo. And I was okay with that.
They got my vote.
Yeah, I agree and disagree at the same time. So I'm like, hey, it's all good. I think G.I. Joe is a freaking great toy line. Nintendo, being as big as it is, kind of stole the show here, though. So you'll see that post probably the actual official winner right along with this episode post that's going out. So we've got that. And so now we are, after this week, we'll be 4 lines into our third bracket. So I guess we got a little while. What is it, 32?
Yeah, 32 games.
So
32
we still
episodes.
have 28 more episodes to go. We'll see what all ends up in this one. Wish I had a list of all the toys that we were going to do in the next 28 episodes, because then I just pick a winner. Along with that, I think I'll be doing it on Friday. I'll be announcing the person who won a little bit. Do you guys remember the contest that I put up for this? Anybody who voted for Nintendo is going to get a little prize pack from us? Or the winner, if you voted for it, you're going to get thrown in. Yeah, so we
thrown in for a drawing for your
yes.
name.
So we're going to throw all those names in. We're going to pick we're going to have a little spin thing to it. We're going to pick a winner.
I'm not in there. I didn't vote for Nintendo, so
you didn't vote for Nintendo. You were getting taken out anyways, Michael. So maybe Friday it'll be a good little thing. We'll announce that right as we're doing New Year's, I guess. So look forward to that. And I actually picked up something yesterday that's going into that prize pack. So you'll be seeing all that come out. All right, let's talk about 2021. Before we jump into board games, let's talk about 2021. We had how many toy lines? How many episodes did you say there was, Michael?
46 episodes we've done. Today, this one would be 47 for this year. So
this will be 47 for the 2021 year. So that's we started January 7th, our first toy line for 2021. We started strong with Transformers. Sully was on with that, and
episode 23 is what that was.
Episode 23. So we started strong, and then obviously this week being the last one with board games, but we did have Eagle Force last week. So a good, strong set of episodes. I know, Michael, you asked, this is your question. What was our favorite episode out of those? So let's do something different, something weird. Feels weird to even think about this, but John, you want to go first?
So out of all of them with me, I think episode 24, which is Visionaries, really struck it with me. And of course, now I have 3 complete ones behind me. So, I mean, if it really gets you and you can find them and you really want them, I guess it's important enough. You know, I like them. Mm-hmm. They're back there. And then my second one is episode 57, which was Cops. And I do have Highway from that one. So definitely picked up a couple of those. So.
2 really interesting toy lines. I like those. They were kind of different. The whole cops and crooks thing that they did with that one. And then the way Visionaries, I mean, it was really kind of a visionary type of thing, toy line to have there. So
I know looking at those and trying to get them, it was kind of tricky to find ones that I thought were good enough quality to get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Michael, what do you got? I'm going to go ahead and take a guess on episode 33 for you.
33? I don't have 33 on
there. He doesn't have 33 on his list.
No Godzilla?
33. Yeah. I mean, I've got like 6 of them here, and it was the top. It wasn't the top. I mean, it's the one.
He's got 47 on his list.
I think we had 47 amazing episodes.
Yeah. No, I guess, the funnest one we had was with Clint on the NES, episode 35.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the funnest one we had. And that game, Andrew, that you came up with, that game put it over the top. It was the funnest. But we got to learn that Teddy Ruxpin was the savior of Nintendo.
So we learned that in episode 35, and then what was it? What was Teddy Ruxpin? What is it? Episode 64.
Yeah, 64.
So 29 episodes after that, we find out that Teddy Ruxpin is not a bear.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a Teddy Ruxpin year.
Yeah, it was. So, but yeah, that was probably the funnest one. And then the knockoffs, I think episode 34 was pretty fun too, when we talked about the knockoff stuff.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. The 2 diecast episodes were near and dear to me. Episode 50 with Hot Wheels and 41 with Johnny Lightning. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of great info on Johnny Lightning from a buddy of mine. And then, you know, like you said, the Transformers one was, you know, I'm a big Transformer fan, so that was fun with Sully, talking with him over that. And another one we had fun with was with the STS guys on the episode 29 with the 12-inch line of G.I. Joe. That one was pretty fun. So those are probably my top ones. And Godzilla is also pretty fun.
So John, what Michael did was said, "Hey, what was your favorite episode?" We should have made him go last. I really should have thought about this, because Michael's like, "Oh, here's mine. It's all of them."
Well, it's the majority of them that had somebody on with us.
Yeah,
so he just doesn't like talking to just me and you.
He doesn't. I mean, it kind of gets old. So I will tell you.
He just shrugs it off.
I mean,
one of my top ones was 39, the DC Superpowers.
Yeah,
I like this. That was a fun episode, because that was a toy line that I'd kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
Really, like, I knew it was there, but just how cool they were, and everything. Like, I'm still looking for a Batman. They go for too much, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just upsetting to see Marvel beat them out on the toy bracket, because it really shouldn't have.
The Marvel toys, the Secret Wars toys, were not as good as those Superpowers. See, Michael's got those two there. And I've got my Penguin behind me. That is an awesome toy line. It has everything to do with the way that it was. Kenner did that. It was all a great toy line. And if it was Marvel, that one, and DC was the bad one, like I'd said that was the cool line. It had nothing to do with Batman. It just, I learned a lot, and I remembered a toy line that I had forgotten about. Another one that I really enjoyed, where'd it go? What was the number? There it is. It was the two of them that we did together, The Lost World of the Warlord and The Warrior Beasts. That was 2 episodes, 51 and 52. I really liked those because it was the way that we did the episodes together. Mm-hmm. Talked about the 2 different lines that were actually kind of intertwined, you know. So pretty good one. And then I think we had a stellar October with all our monster talk.
Right. Yeah, the monster one was fun too.
Yeah. So learning a lot about those, the way that they evolved from, looking like the people to, not being able to do that with all the details and everything. So you did mention most of the ones we did with guests. We started off with Sully with Transformers. We had the STS guys on twice because we talked about G.I. Joe twice this year. Yeah. Clint was on from the Dorksmen to talk about Nintendo. A couple of the Average Nerds on to talk about Ronin Warriors. That was another good episode because that was a line I didn't really know anything about.
Right.
And I learned some stuff. So enjoyed that, having them on. And then last week we had Dwayne on with the Miko Eagle Force.
That was a fun one too, yeah.
That was another fun one. I didn't know anything about Eagle Force until we did that episode. So
I know the name, but I didn't know the line itself very well. And digging into that was pretty fun. And then talking with Dwayne was lots of fun too.
Yeah, I don't think I even knew the name really. I've seen the figures because I've seen the gold figures just in different things. I thought they were gold G.I. Joe, to be honest. Because I don't know if I ever touched them to know if they were the die cast or what. Just didn't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. So it's been a pretty good year. Pretty good 2021. We've got a lot of toys to talk about in 2022 and going forward. So
I guess our big question is, we blew it out of the water with all of these monsters for October. What are we going to do in October this year?
I think we've got some.
Are there more monsters?
We've quite a bit. Let me just.
Yeah, we've got at least 3 of them set up, I think, for next October.
Let's just say we still have 86 toy lines on our bucket right here,
and we're still adding.
We're still adding pretty decently. Adding.
Oh, I know one we're doing.
Adding toy
October.
lines.
I see it now.
Yeah. So I mean,
I came across. I wrote this down.
I thought that was
No,
I thought it was a marshmallow for a second.
It's a little note I got. Matchbox Parasites. If anybody's heard of that, let us know. But I'm adding that to the list. So
I already added it. So that's 87 toy lines that we still have left to talk about. It's going to be a long run with this guy. So hopefully nobody's getting bored with us. and everything. So along with that, hopefully our once a month showcases, collector showcases will be back in January. We got getting some lined up. I'm ready for a strong 2022.
We're gonna do more lives as well next year.
More lives. Try to show off some of our toy lines that we have. I mean, we don't do toy box showcases. Show those things off, and then obviously with the collector showcases, it gets other people's collection in. So get better at it. Stick with us. By the time we're done with this, we'll be professionals. I'll be good.
By the time we're done with this, we'll be professionals.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw in the drink there. We all got some towel tumblers from our parents. Mm-hmm. Shout out to mom and dad for Christmas that have the Toy Rewind logo on it. If you're looking for some merch, you want to have some Toy Rewind merch, go to our website, toyrewindpodcast.com. Go to the top. It says merch. Click on it. Buy something. Support a podcast that you like. It's a lot of fun. All right. With that, Michael, you ready to rewind? Are you ready to talk about some Milton Bradley?
Let's go.
All right. Let's rewind and get into it.
All right. So established way back in 1860 by business magnate Milton Bradley. So that's the guy's name, Milton Bradley. So he named the company after himself.
I mean, why not? Why not just name it after yourself? I'm making a toy. It's the Andrew Newland Toy Company.
Yeah. So it's the business magnate, not the baseball player, but yeah. So anyway, so after moving to Springfield, Massachusetts, Bradley set up the state's very first color lithography shop. His graphic design of Abraham Lincoln was a hit until Lincoln grew a beard and rendered the picture out of date. So he started off with lithography and come up with this picture of Abraham Lincoln and sold a ton of them. And then Abe decided to grow his beard and nobody recognized him from the picture anymore. I guess, I don't know. So, but anyway, so that's what got Milton Bradley started with was lithography. So trying to figure out what to do next with his lithography machine, Bradley visited a friend of his named George Tapley, if I can talk right. Tapley challenged him to a game, and Bradley got the idea of making a pure American game, because at that time, it was still they still had a lot of European stuff going on, innovations and stuff there in the 1800s. So a lot of the games that people played were from Europe or England, Great Britain, stuff like that. So he wanted to come up with a pure American game, and he came up with the Checkered Game of Life is what he named it. So this game moved players along a track from infancy to happy old age by avoiding ruin. You didn't want to be ruined by the end of your life. So this game used a spinner instead of dice because of the negative association with gambling and dice. So he didn't want to use that. He said, if I use a little spinner, like a little spinner top, and then whatever side, it had flat sides where it landed on the number, that's what it is. So so that was something a little bit different, and people thought it was more family friendly than dice would be because of the gambling thing. So Andrew's got a picture of it up. It's kind of a different looking board than what you know now, but it's all gotten bigger. I know there's several things they've updated from the new one that they came out with, but it looks different. But I guess once you get to playing it, it kind of makes more sense. So
it looks really weird with it. It's identical to a checkerboard. I just came across this.
Yeah.
And I hadn't actually seen the board for it because everything I looks like closer to the newer life.
It's the newer one,
yeah.
But I know, like Michael said, they took some of the stuff. So there's one of them in here that's about suicide. They took that square or that information completely off. So
yeah. So it's it starts you at infancy and you work your way up to happy old age. So,
which is 50, by the way.
Oh, it's 50. I guess that might have been happy old age by then.
I mean, isn't it?
I don't think people really lived that long back then, anyway. So
no, it was
50 maybe the old
Michael,
age.
That's what 6.5
Don't John, shush. Stop.
Don't.
There's no reason to do
that. You guys aren't too far behind me, so
exactly. There's no reason to do that, John.
So by spring of 1861, over 45,000 copies of this game had been sold, and convinced Bradley that board games were the future of his company. So he had so much success with this that he decided that's the way he needs to go, and forget the picture taking. So also, what else happened in 1861? The Civil War broke out.
Oh, so I thought you were going to add, like that was a question you were going to ask us. I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't even think.
So when the Civil War broke out, early 1861, Bradley noticed that board soldiers that were stationed in Springfield and began producing. He noticed the board soldiers, so he began producing small games which the soldiers could play during their downtime. And these were actually regarded as the first travel games in the country. He produced smaller versions of chess, checkers, backgammon, dominoes, and then his own game of life. He made a smaller version of it. These were all sold for $1 a piece to soldiers at a charitable organizations that actually passed those out through to the soldiers. So how much was $1 back in 1861?
I was just pulling that up. $1.
How much would it be now?
$31.58 today.
So they buy a game of checkers or chess for $31.
Jesus, wow. That's a crazy lot. That's like that's an expensive game of checkers.
It is, yeah. So, another thing that Milton Bradley was known for was he was instrumental in leading the way in education by becoming involved with the kindergarten movement. So he was really into the education of younger kids, trying to get the school stuff going and starting out at an early age. So the company began manufacturing colored paper, paint, toy money, multiplication sticks, movable clock dials, and just gave these away free of charge. He just gave them to kids, to schools, whatever. And he was making money off of the board games and all that kind of stuff he was starting to do. And $31 or $1 back then for that. So that he was making some money off of that stuff, but giving stuff away for free that they were making kind of hurt the company. And then investors told Bradley that it was either them or the educational stuff, and Bradley chose education.
Well, I'm glad somebody did, because these days I don't know if they would.
Yeah, right. Just wanting the money part.
Yeah.
A lot of people are a little bit money hungry. So he said, forget you guys. I'm gonna keep giving away this stuff for education. So, and then he has his friend George Tapley, who actually gave him the idea of starting his company as board games. So George Tapley came in and he picked up all what he was losing from the investors. So Tapley then became president of the company. So you had Milton Bradley as the CEO, owner of the company, and then you had Tapley as the president. So by the 1870s, the company was making dozens of games and became the first manufacturer to make croquet sets here in the U.S.
Okay.
All the other croquet sets they had were shipped in from Europe, all over from overseas. So 1880 saw jigsaw puzzles added to the repertoire. And then in the turn of the century, a large portion of the company's income was educational supplies. So they eventually started selling some of this stuff. Now, he was still probably giving away stuff like that, but he was selling some of this stuff as well, and continued to make games such as some of the games that they made from the right around 1900 was Visit to the Gypsies, Word Gardening,
okay,
Happy Days in Old England, and then a fortune telling game. So
Happy Days in Old England.
Happy Days in Old England. And I like to Visit to the Gypsies. I like to play that game and see what that was all about. So Bradley actually he died in 1911, and the company was passed to Robert Ellis, who then passed it to Bradley's son-in-law, Robert Ingersoll, who eventually passed it to George Tapley's son, William. So the next 10 years, it just kind of got handed over.
Just getting passed around.
Passed around, yeah. So in 1920, the company Milton Bradley, they bought out the McLaughlin brothers, who were a publishing firm which published books, puzzles, games, paper soldiers, and paper dolls. So that added more stuff to the repertoire, to their stuff there. So the company started to delve in. What I say? Oh, the company started to decline in the 1920s and then fell dramatically in the 30s during the Great Depression. A lot of people didn't have any money to spend on games like this, so it hurt the company big time. So 1940, the company almost went into bankruptcy, and the board of directors persuaded businessman James J. Shea to take over presidency of the company. And he actually moved to decrease the debt and began a major renovation of the plant. And then he ended up burning old inventory that had been accumulating since the 1900s. So this was 1940. So they've had almost 40 years of stuff that just sat in the warehouse and just cost him money to be there. So he just burned it all. So
jeez, just burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So during World War II, Milton Bradley reproduced revised versions of their game kits for soldiers. The dominoes, the checkers, the chess, the backgammon, all those. So they kind of redid all that like they did for the Civil War soldiers. They did this for the World War II soldiers. And introduced new games after cutting back from 410 titles to 150 titles. So at the time, during World War II, they had, can you imagine having 410 different items that you produced like that? And it was a lot. And there was a lot of stuff that just didn't sell. They still made it, but they just didn't sell it. So that's kind of why their inventory was just sitting there, and Shea had to burn it all just to get rid of it. So they cut back to 150, and some of these 150 were new games. Some of these games were Game of the States. There were Chutes and Ladders, and then Candyland. And I know we're familiar with two of those because we played Chutes and Ladders. And
played quite a few Chutes and Ladders and Candyland, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, after World War II, television was growing. So in 1959, Milton Bradley released Concentration. It was a memory game based on NBC's TV show of the same name. The game was such a success, it continued until 1982, even after the TV show was canceled in 1973. So this thing went from 1959 to 1982, and the TV show it was modeled after was canceled 9 years before it was canceled.
Wow.
So it was pretty good. There was also box games of Password and Jeopardy as well. Those are two other game shows that were around during that time. Let's see. Milton Bradley celebrated their centennial in 1960 with the re-release of the Checkered Game of Life, which was more modernized and renamed the Game of Life, which is what we know of it as. Mm-hmm. And it changed the goal from happy old age of 50 years old to becoming a millionaire. So you grew up to become a millionaire.
I feel like that's a better goal.
All right.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, I mean, just to be like, look, once you get 50, you're done.
Yeah.
Like at least a millionaire, you're maybe not done, but that's just like level.
Yeah.
A
couple other things that happened during this time. Twister debuted in the 1960s. We all know Twister. 1967, James Shea Jr. took over for his father, and he bought Play School, which were the makers of Yahtzee and Body Language. The 70s and 80s, electronic games became popular, and Simon was released in 1978, which became Milton Bradley's best-selling item in 1980.
That makes sense.
So 1979, Milton Bradley developed the first handheld cartridge-based console, Microvision. So this is the first one that was handheld with the cartridge. And it's just a simple little game. I watched the YouTube video of a guy talking about it, and it only lasted 2 years, I believe is what the lifespan of it was. But it's just a little simple, like it had Breakout, and there was a Star Trek themed game. They did lose the license to the Star Trek and just named it the Laser, whatever it was. They took the Star Trek off of it, but it was you just shoot a laser trying to hit little points that kept lighting up on the screen. So,
right.
But it's all simple little games. Is all it was. But it was the first handheld cartridge based.
It sold for $49.99.
$49.99 in 1979. How much is that, Andrew?
1979, $49.99. Almost $200, $191.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's about right for back then.
That's crazy.
And you can find them pretty cheap nowadays. They're not $200 nowadays. But,
no.
So in 1983, the company purchased Central Consumer Electronics, which created Vectrix. It's a vector-based video game console. And I meant to look up what vector-based means. I do apologize for forgetting to look that up. So, but that was the next big thing in gaming, I guess, at the time. So they did buy that, but I don't think they went too far with that, because then the gaming industry crashed right at that time too, because of
vector gaming. Vector gaming refers to any video game that uses a vector graphics display, like Atari uses a vector graphics display.
Okay. So it's more like okay.
Yeah.
So it's so like we know what happened with Atari, the whole gaming platform just crashed at that time in 83 and 84. So
the big difference between like Vector and like Nintendo, so with vector gaming, you could technically play vector gaming on our large flat screens now.
Mm-hmm.
Try to play an NES without playing it in 3/4 on a large. It stretches it out, right?
Yeah,
and it's fuzzy. With vector, it's not going to be fuzzy like that, because it's done with lines and everything. So that's the thing. Yeah. That's the way those work. So
okay, yeah. So that's why it didn't get big, because of the video game crash. 1984, Hasbro bought out Milton Bradley, ending 124 years of family ownership. So now they were owned by a big company, which they were already a big company. But,
yeah,
I mean, they were the biggest company in the world as far as gaming and stuff for 124 years. So the 1980s, 1990s underneath Hasbro saw the release of Hero Quest, Battle Masters, Gator Golf, Crack the Case, Mall Madness, and 1313 Dead End Drive was the name of that game. 1991, Hasbro acquired Parker Brothers, which was the second biggest game, which we talked about that last year at this time, and merged the two to create Hasbro Games. In 2009, Hasbro dropped the Milton Bradley and Parker Brother names in favor of just Hasbro Gaming on its products. So, 2009 was the last you saw of the Milton Bradley logo on those.
So many of those games that we've talked about now between the two companies, between Parker Brothers and Milton Bradley, are merged together. Like, you think about them together, because when you're talking about board games, I don't know of anybody who's like, let's go play a Parker Brothers board game, or let's go play a Milton Bradley board game specifically. You just talk about board games. And then honestly, I mean, had we not talked about it last year, if you were like, hey, who originally made Monopoly, I would have had to think about it. Like, wait a minute, which one was that? Like, it's not just, immediately, oh yeah, that's who this is, because they're making the same games, like, together, not together, but they're making all these board games at the same time. Now it's all under Hasbro. So it's like, hey, are there, I mean, I guess there are other board game companies now, but I mean, there are, who is it? Who makes the villainous games? I can't even think of who it is. Ravensburger. Yeah. So they make that, and there's lots. I mean, Funko's making games. It's there's a few smaller companies that are in there, but you've got to have just that next big cool game to be able to compete with Hasbro, I think.
Something cool that I came across going back to the Vectrix. A lot of people nowadays or collectors are picking these up when they can find one, and they're creating their own games to be put on there. So you can actually program your own game to play on that. So, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you want to go through? We're going to talk about a few select games.
Yeah, we can talk about these. Are the ones specifically, like we talked earlier, Battleship. Let's just start there. Or, well, no. Battleship's first on my list, but let's start with the Game of Life. That's where it all started. So let's start with the Game of Life. This is, I would probably say, in the top 5 of games that we played. You guys agree? Y'all agree with that?
Yeah. I don't remember playing much on it, but it is one we played quite a bit. I think, Andrew, you might have played it more than I have. You and John might have.
I remember playing this one a lot. I mean, obviously,
I think Andrew probably played it more than I did.
Maybe Andrew played it more than we did.
I played this a lot with my kids, as they're going. It's one of the games that it's easy for them to learn and do. There's less chance in it now than there used to be. You just kind of follow the path or whatever, and you just have some options or whatever. But it's still fun game to play. I like the fact that it's not dice. It's the spinner. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that they had changed that because of the negative gambling.
They didn't want the dice.
I just thought it was them trying to make something different. I never thought about the negative aspect of the dice. So I like that. All right, let's talk about Battleship.
So
that's not a very big one, so should be quick.
No, we just a few little bit of history of each one and stuff. What we're going over. So Battleship, it's a strategy type guessing game for 2 players, known worldwide as a pencil and paper game. So it started out on, you had a paper that had your little squares marked off your grid, and you mark off where your ships were at, and you would call it and X'd out the hits, and then you try to hit the other person, guess where the other person's ships were at. So this that dates back to World War I. It was published by various companies as like I said, a pad and pencil game. In the 1930s, it was released as a plastic board game by Milton Bradley. So in 1967, or that's 13. It was, it was various companies did it through the 1930s, and then in the 1967. Plastic board game of it was released by Milton Bradley. That's what I was trying to say. So in 1977, Milton Bradley released a computerized electronic battleship and reputed to be the first toy with a sound chip. So this one actually the first game, they got a lot of firsts with Milton Bradley.
They did, yeah.
So it was pretty cool. You've got your plastic ships that you stick in the peg holes, and instead of drawing on a piece of paper, but you still got to guess. You throw out numbers on the grid where you think the other person's battleship is, and see if you can hit it. And then you put a little peg. The Milton Bradley's version of it, you put a little peg in those spots, whether you hit or miss. So.
The big thing I remember about this is losing all the little white and red pegs.
Yep.
Them being everywhere. They fit pretty well with Legos, and so I would find them in my Legos all the time.
They kind of squeeze in there, and you lose them up in there.
Yeah, you could lose them up. So that's what I remember. I think we all pretty much. That's one thing I really liked playing with you guys is because this is one that there's strategy to it, but it's also like you said, a guessing game. You know? So I enjoy playing with y'all because it's not one that nobody had a huge advantage to this, so I think we all won and lost pretty good amount of games with that one. So
yeah, that was one that we played quite a bit together. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Connect 4.
So Connect 4 is a 2-player connection board game in which the players choose a color and then take turns dropping the colored discs in a vertically suspended grid. The object of the game is to be the first to form a vertical, horizontal, or diagonal line of 4 of one's discs. This was first sold under the Connect 4 trademark by Milton Bradley in February of 1974. So this one's from 1974. And we played this quite a bit too. We had a big jumbo version of this, I think, at one time, or somebody did. But it's got 6 tall and 7 across, I think is what it is. And you just take turns dropping your disc in there. I think we had black and red, or yellow and red, or something like that.
Yellow and red.
I was just about to ask you guys
maybe
what
yellow
are
and red.
3 main colors used on Connect 4.
Is it black, yellow, and red?
No, it's blue, yellow, and red.
Yeah.
Oh, blue. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much a variety of those. Those are the main ones. And I think you're actually thinking about a checkers board that we had.
Yeah, checkers are black.
They were pretty big. We had red and black, and then it was like a
brown. That was the checkers.
You're thinking about checkers board.
Yeah. I'm getting things confused.
What do you have to say about? John, you remember this one a lot, right? I remember us playing.
We played a lot.
So, I feel like we played a lot at Nanny and Pops.
And you got to be kind of tricky on it because usually the first person that drops first usually wins.
Yeah,
you got to. You
got to catch them when they're not paying attention, and that's when you drop it and you look back and they're like, okay, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can catch somebody that's like got a strategy and they're thinking a lot and you drop in real quick and catch them off guard, you can take that one.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to do.
Yeah. So,
all right. Hungry Hippos.
So Hungry Hippos is a tabletop game for 2 to 4 players. It's first released in 1978. The game was imported from Japan by toy inventor Fred Kroll, who published the idea of the game back in 1967. So that's a little bit of history I got on it. So, I mean, it's you get marbles out there, and you got your hippos that you hit the little thing, and they come up and try to eat the marbles. Whoever eats the most marbles wins.
This is a slappers game.
Yeah,
there's no strategy. You throw the marbles out there, and you're. Sorry if that was really
trying to eat
How
them.
fast can you get that hippo's mouth to go out and pull them in?
Yeah, it's so crazy. Interesting thing about this, there is a really fun version of this that is you actually playing that you can do if you've got like 8, at least 4 people. But if you have 8 people, that we can have 4 people. Yeah, and you do like basketballs or some kind of larger ball, and you put all those in the middle, and then you have somebody like you can attach strings to your feet or whatever if you want to do string wise, or you just have them like throw your feet out there and you throw like a hamper over the balls and you pull them back and you're on like a skateboard or something. Lots and lots of fun. You can also hurt people by hitting them with the hampers. If you hit wrong, lots of fun. And I've played it a few times. It's just fun. So
Interesting.
All right. Twister. This is obviously, you said this one was in the 70s or the 60s or the 70s?
Which one? Twister is 60s.
60s. Okay. When you said that, I was like, of course it's the 60s. Like,
it's in that whole area, that whole era. So it's a game of physical skill and played on a large plastic mat. There's 6 rows of large colored circles with a different color in each row. There's red, yellow, green, and blue. The game is the catchphrase was the game that ties you up in knots. So 1964, Ryan Geyer owned and managed a design company which made in-store displays for Fortune 500 companies. His son, Ryan Jr., developed the idea that a game could utilize people as playing pieces on a life-size board. So kind of like you're talking about with the Hungry Hungry Hippo when you on skateboards, people doing that. So
yeah.
So his first attempt he called King's Footsie, which was turned down by the company he tried to offer it to. So later, with the help of Charles Foley, who was a toy designer at the time, and Neil Rubens, who was a product design artist, they submitted for patents and trademark rights for what was originally called Pretzel. So they kind of made some adjustments to it, changed the name, and then they filed for patents and trademarks. So Foley called on his good friend Mel Taft Sr., who was at the time of the vice president of Milton Bradley, in 1966 for a product idea presentation. Milton Bradley took on the pretzel, but renamed it Twister. So it's good having friends in high places, I guess, because they liked the idea and they said, let's do it, let's make it, but let's call it something else. So they called it Twister instead. Another fun fact is it was also licensed to Nintendo in 1966 for the Japanese market. So Nintendo pops back up in our notes. So, but this was before the video game Nintendo. Back then they had other kind of games. So that was kind of, and there has been many a game parties and stuff with this here that I've played it a few times. I've never really played much, but I have.
This one could be really big on how much balance you have.
Yeah, because you have a spinner that tells you what color and then what arm or what hand or foot to put on a color.
Right.
And you try to do that with like what I say, 4 people. If you put 4 people on this and you're trying to put your right hand on blue and the blue is across 2 other people before you'd even try to get it, you got to have good balance or you all fall and somebody gets squished at the end of the day. So
this is a fun party one though.
Yeah. So it is a good party game.
Especially
all right.
Yahtzee.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there. We're just going to go right into Yahtzee. Right?
Okay, Yahtzee. This is it's a dice game first marketed by game entrepreneur Edwin S. Lowe in 1956. It is a development of earlier dice games such as Poker Dice, Yacht, and Generala. Okay, see how that was pronounced. So E.S. Lowe Company marketed the game from 1956 to 1973 when Milton Bradley purchased the E.S. Lowe and assumed the rights to produce to sell Yahtzee. So this came in from a different company. that Milton Bradley purchased and started producing. So in 1973. So, this is a pretty fun game. We played this too growing up. I know I did. You get your dice in there and you throw them out and you add up the score. At the end of the game, whoever has the high score wins.
But you also had the challenge of getting certain things, like you had to get 5 6s or to mark it off your list. And that's how you scored yourself. So
you try to get certain certain things. Like I said, all 5 of them being 6s or all 5 being 4s.
You had to get a 2 of a kind, a 3 of a kind, a 4 of a kind, and depending on which ones you chose to try to get, depending on how many points you got. So
this is another one that I remember playing with Nanny a lot. Mm-hmm. She also happened to be really good at playing craps, so probably went into that.
I didn't play craps with her. I played Yahtzee with her. Yeah.
Well, I just happen to know from stories that I never played craps with Nanny. I just know from Mom. She said that that was one of Nanny's favorite games, or gambling games. And I remember playing Yahtzee with her a lot, so it made sense. Yeah. This is also another one. Evie
gambling dice thing.
Yeah, Evie really likes to play this. Or she did. I don't know if she's played in a while, but she really liked to play this one. So Yahtzee's one that we like to play a lot. Mm-hmm. What else do we have? This is when we get into some funner ones to me, like that people might not know as much about.
Yeah.
So what else do you have? You were going to say something about Yahtzee.
No, that was it for Yahtzee. Yeah, it was more, like I said just a minute ago, it was more the dice gambling type thing, I guess, what it went.
And I did say funner, just so everybody knows. It's fine. It's a good fun word. So this game, Axis and Allies.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one. I don't think that many people would know about this one.
No, it's not. It's very similar to Risk, which we grew up playing Risk from Parker Brothers. So this is it's a World War II strategy board game. The board depicted a spring of 1942 political map of the Earth and divided by territories. Players take the roles of either Germany or Japan, which were the Axis countries, and then or you can have Soviet Union, the UK, or the US, which were the Allies. So this was designed by Larry Harris under the name of 1942. In the late 70s, Harris partnered with a local Connecticut hobby shop called Citadel Game Store. And they published this game in 1981 under the company name of Nova Game Designs. Now, Milton Bradley republished this, got the rights to it, republished it in 1984 as part of their Game Masters series of board games. So a lot of the Game Masters were board games where you did a lot of battles. There was, where's that? My list here. So you had Axis and Allies. You had Broadsides and Boarding Parties, which was like a pirate type thing. You had Conquest of the Empire, Fortress America, and Shogun. Those were the parts of this Game Master series of games. So, but this was the one that was the biggest success out of those groups, and it actually carried on. These others didn't last very long, but this one lasted. The object of the game is to win the war by capturing enough critical territories to gain the advantage over the enemy, and a recreation of World War II. So that's the gist of it. It's almost very similar to Risk.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I don't know if you add. I remember all the toys or all the games that we played growing up. That's probably the second largest. Risk being the second largest one.
Yeah,
especially at Nanny's. We always played at Nanny's. For sure.
Always played at Nanny's.
We played a lot of games at Nanny's.
Yeah, we did. Nanny liked to play games with us. It was fun.
Yeah.
All right. And the last one we have on our list, Hero Quest. This is specifically one that kind of larger, but not quite what I think a lot of people would really know.
Yeah. So in the late 80s, the game designer Stephen Baker moved from Games Workshop, which was a gaming company in the UK, to Milton Bradley, and then convinced Roger Ford, who was at the time Milton Bradley's head of development, to allow him to develop a fantasy genre game. Baker was given the go-ahead as long as he kept it simple. So Baker contacted his former employer, Games Workshop, to develop the plastic miniatures that they would use in the game, but then decided to draw on their expertise in the fantasy game field. So they kind of got help from Games Workshop to develop this game. So it was kind of a co-development partnership there for this. This was the result of this partnership came out to be Hero Quest. It's an adventure game where players cooperate against a single adversary. It was released in Britain and Europe and Australia in 1989, and then a slightly different version was released in the US and Canada in 1990. This is similar to like Dungeons and Dragons type gaming. You have one guy that kind of sets up the board and the layout of the caverns or whatever you have to go through, different places, gates, stores, stuff like that. And you've got 4 different good guys that play this. You have a barbarian, a dwarf, an elf, and a wizard. And those are those four characters kind of try to defeat the main wizard is what it is. So the wizard controls a selection of monsters. They have orcs, goblins, Fimir. I have no idea what a Fimir is. Chaos warriors. There was a chaos warlock or witch lord, I guess, depending on which version you had. There was gargoyles, skeletons, zombies, and mummies that you had to fight against. And then the years afterwards, there were several expansion packs that were released in later years. Some of the expansion packs were only released in around Australia, Asia section of the world, and then there was some that was only released here in the U.S. or North America. But it all had extra stuff there, extra figures, extra bad guys that you had to fight. But it's all set up as like a fast playing Dungeons and Dragons game. It's, Dungeons and Dragons can last hours and hours and hours. This was maybe an hour long. It was a short, quick game, but it was very similar. You had a little story thing you had to go along with and everything. So it was pretty cool. So,
all right, those are the games that I had on the list. Any other ones we want to add in?
Well, I was looking at this list of different games, that they have. Aggravation is one that we all know of. Let's see,
Michael, we pulled up that deal. We're looking at that Fireball.
Yeah, the Fireball
Island. That looked like an interesting one. And you play it, and it's actually like a 3D board.
Yeah, so you try to get to the top of
there's marbles that are on it, so I guess you hit them, and the marbles will attack down a certain way and knock people back.
Yeah, it's like a volcano island that you have to traverse. So another one that they have, Ants in the Pants, came out in 1969.
Ants in the Pants.
There's Barrel of Monkeys, came out in 1965.
Is that a board game? That's not a game.
It's a Milton Bradley game.
That's not a game.
You had Bed Bugs, which came out in 1985. Beetle, which was also known as Cootie.
Cootie,
came out in 1927 is when that one came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was that old.
There was a Bigfoot game in 1977. We said Candyland came out in 1949. They have a lot of games with movies and stuff like that. There's Charlie's Angels. I saw there's some Marvel
Goonies.
ones, Amazing Spider-Man.
There's a Goonies one.
Goonies, yeah,
one.
we got Goonies. Let's see.
What about what was it? Oh shoot, I just closed it out. The Beatles.
Uh-oh.
The Flip Your Wig from the
Flip
Beatles.
Your Wig.
Flip Your Wig. Here's one that me and Andrew kind of familiar with. Daytona 500. It came out in 1990.
Yep.
So there's a lot of Disney board game series. You had 101 Dalmatians, Aladdin. There was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Getting Goofy Game, Lion King, Pinocchio, Little Mermaid, Pocahontas. They had all those games. Here's another one. Don't Break the Ice. That's another classic one from 1968.
Like the one, Don't Spill Your Beans.
Don't Spill the Beans in 1957. And these are all in alphabetical order, so that's why. There's a Flintstones game, came out in 1971. Fraggle Rock in 1984. We watched a lot of Fraggle Rock.
Yep.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, 1982.
G.I. Joe. There's a Godzilla game from 1998. I wonder what Go-Go Worms is. That seems like an interesting game.
Guess Who?
Guess Who?
Yep, 1982.
Yeah, Jenga came out in 1986.
Jenga. That's a good one. That's you get the big like 2x4s and make it like a yard Jenga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gotta make sure they're nice and smooth though.
Yeah.
Mousetrap in 1963.
Mousetrap.
That's one we had growing
We
up.
had that one. It was a pain to even set up.
Here's one Rainey would like. She may even have this. New Kids on the Block game. So, and she may have it. I don't know. I have to ask her.
Rainey,
She'll probably. She's listening now and yelling at me. Yeah. So, there's the Real Ghostbusters game, which came out in 1986. Just shuffling through here. Spider Wars 1988. Let's see some other old ones. Is what I'm trying to find. Sub Attack game from 1966. Thundar the Barbarian. That's the cartoon I grew up with. 1982.
Trouble, 1965.
Trouble 1965. Yeah. Torpedo Run was 1986. Here's an old one from back when. Tommy Twinkle's Numbers game came out in 1923. So, yeah, some of these had some weird names back then.
Yeah.
Uncle Wiggily, 1916.
1916. There you go.
It's a track. Hold on, where you go? Track board game based on character in a series of children's books by American writer Howard Roger.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like if we just talked about Twister from 1966. You had Animal Twister in 1967, and the Bratz Twister from 2005. So I don't know what Animal Twister is, but yeah.
So with this, we need to rank Milton Bradley in with their games, like the ones specifically the ones we played most of the time. We're not going to do individuals. We did this last time, and where it kind of fit. It was pretty high on John's list, and I believe that was round one. It was pretty high. Board games, Parker Brother didn't get any higher than that one.
Yeah.
So they had the good.
They have the good ones. So. It's interesting to see where do we go with this, Michael? Where does it rank in your list? It's a long list.
With what we have up there right now, the three that we have, this one's going to go. I guess I'm gonna put it number one because I had more fun with this, and I'm a lot of these games growing up, specifically Candyland and stuff like that. So I'm gonna put it number one on my list. It won't stay there very long, but that's where I'm putting it.
John?
It's going to go number one right now, but I'm like Michael. It may not stay there, but this one's definitely one at this time.
Yeah, this is going number 1 for me too. I kind of feel like mine might stick there a little longer than your guys. But then also I know what's happening next week, so maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how next week. So this is a number 1 across the board for us. So for now, but it is a bingo square. Yep, it is a bingo square. So that does give you, if you're playing our game, it's a little bingo square for you. Speaking about games, I was going to wait and do this on Friday, but I wanted to I think we should do it now. I pulled all the names for the people who have voted, and I put them in this spinner. We're going to click the wheel, and we're going to find out who won our prize pack. We didn't even announce what the prize pack is, but what I'll do is I'll reach out to you and let you know if you win. Sound good to you, John? To you, Michael?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, so here we go. We're going to spin and see who wins. It's spinning. It's spinning.
Like, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy.
Oh, so close, Angry Nate, but it's going to go to Hunts.
So that is Doug from my work.
That's that makes shipping a lot easier.
Yeah. Free shipping.
So when he listens to this, if he listens to it,
are you going to tell him, John?
Huh? Almost.
Are you going to tell him?
No, I'm not going to tell him until you post it. I want him to see it and then come after me to.
I was going to be like, let's see if he. So the episode drops on Thursday, tomorrow morning. I won't post until Friday, so we'll see if he listens. If he wins, so that's Doug. Yeah. How do you say it was a Huntsburger?
It's Huntsburger.
Huntsburger. Okay. Yeah, Angry Nate. Sorry, you almost won. It was real close. If you want to see how close it was, just go watch our video on YouTube, and it's there. So
it's like the Wheel of Fortune when you're out there on bankruptcy, and
it's just so. Yeah, actually, I'm really glad because the shipping's a lot cheaper to John than it would be to Nate. So, all right, what we have anything else we want to talk about for board games, or we want to wrap this? This is like a yearly wrap thing here. So,
yeah, we had fun playing board games back in the day.
We did. Do we have another board game company to talk about next year?
I'm sure we'll come up with somebody.
We'll figure it out. We'll do something.
We got a whole year to come up with that.
Yeah, we do. All right. Well, then we talked about some Milton Bradley games. Lots of fun. While you're here, be sure you go check out Geek Together and follow their socials. We do our collector showcases and partner with them. So when we post, they post, and we do it on their Twitch account. So be sure you're following them because that's how you're going to know when we go live with those and all the information, along with following our socials. John went down those earlier. You can get those at toyrewindpodcast.com or crossstreamsmedia.com. And while you're over at crossstreamsmedia.com, check out some of our partnered podcasts over there, like The Dorksman, the SDS Guys, Secondary Heroes, 3 Beers and a Mic, The Movie Gap, the Dan Aykroyd Podcast, the Burt Reynolds and Charles Bronson Podcast, Front Row Negative, The Art of the Boar, and Beering Ain't Easy. You can leave us all reviews there. You can check out all those great podcasts. So there's so much content there. It's kind of crazy. You can leave us, like I said, you can leave us reviews. You can leave us messages, voice messages, and we'll get those. And if we get them, we'll play them right here on the episode or right here on the podcast. So be sure you do that. Also, I want to throw this in there. So a friend of mine or an old boss of mine got his son to do a podcast with him. And I feel like that he listened to us, and he would listen to us with his son, Jack. And so they decided to do this podcast, and it's called the Superhero Encyclopedia for Kids. They've released one episode as of us recording this. I don't know when their release schedule is. So, and that was about Captain America, and it's the history of Captain America. It's a short, like 8-minute episode. I think they're trying to keep them short because obviously they're doing these for kids to kind of give them ideas on stuff, and maybe an intro into some superheroes for some of these kids. So check it out. I know you can find it on Spotify, and it was just fun to listen and hear Matt and his son Jack kind of talk about Captain America. Also, Batman got a mention, and so that's even better. All right. Anything else we want to add before we wrap it?
No, I think I hope everybody had a good year and looking forward to 2022 and hope everybody has a good 2022.
Yeah, I hope everybody's had a great Christmas. Gonna have a happy new year. I personally can't wait to get into 2022 because I can get back to watching my hockey that's been on hold forever. So I'm excited about that. And John, anything from you?
Yahtzee.
I don't know. All right. Well, with that, on behalf of the Brothers Newland here at the Toy Rewind podcast, play on.
You've been listening to the Toy Rewind podcast. Follow and join in the conversations at toyrewindpodcast.com.